waiting for them to open up and video and just share a thought that was going through my mind. Before I do, Bob Evans. When I'm traveling, a lot of times, I go to McDonald's, and I'll end up getting myself a little bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit meal. With the little hash brown, the biscuit, and the drink. And more times than not, depending on where you're at in the country, it comes to like $6 or $7 or something. And the biscuit is never like it looks in the picture. It's never like it looks in the picture. And but time and time again, I go there because it's convenient and because it's habit. And the other day I was driving down the road, and I thought, I feel like having a real breakfast. So I thought I'll go Bob Evans. Bob Evans or Cracker Barrel, pretty much the same thing, but and Denny's perhaps, but more so Bob Evans and Cracker Barrels, where you're going to get the real breakfast, at least from a chain. And you pull into a Bob Evans and you can get a breakfast for probably a couple bucks more than you would pay at a McDonald's for a piece of crap sausage biscuit that looks nothing like the picture. But anyway, tis a gift. Tis a gift to be friendly. I was thinking about all day yesterday. I was thinking about that chance encounter with a living legend, George Yankowski. And you just never know who you're going to meet. You just never know who you're going to meet. And I was thinking to myself that he that guy walks into, he's out and about all the time, I'm sure, and he's rubbing elbows and brushing past people all day long that have no clue, that they're standing in line next to some guy that Babe Ruth put his arm around and said, "Good hit, kid," or a guy that was in the Battle of the Bulge as a sniper and what have you. And that's where the gift to be friendly. It's a gift to be friendly. It's a gift to have the capability and the tendency to reach out to people. To reach out to people and to and to engage people. And that quality, if you want to call it quality, that quality is something that that I attribute, to my a lot. I attribute that a lot to my father. My father was always one to engage people in conversation, anywhere, anytime. He would just start talking to people, and it didn't matter how old they were, didn't matter what their skin color was, didn't matter what they looked like, didn't matter how they were dressed. None of that mattered with my dad. My dad would always be quick to engage people. And, there's a saying that we are from which we come. And I think back to the times that, I was always shadowing my dad at the Cleveland Market in Ohio. For those of you that are not familiar with that, Google that. Just type in Tom Hall Cleveland Market, and you'll see a video of the Cleveland Market. But I used to go to the Cleveland Market just like clockwork every other Saturday with my mom and dad. We would jump in the for my early years. We would jump in the Rambler. I don't know who made the Rambler, but it was a little blue Rambler with I don't know, vinyl or plastic seats or something like that. But we jump in the little blue Rambler and head down to the Cleveland Market. And then as the years passed, I remember my mom talked my dad into getting her a Ford LTD. She wanted to get they got I think it was a Ford LTD. I think it was a Ford LTD, and I remember the Ford LTD had an 8-track. It had an 8-track player in it, which was all the rave back then. But every other Saturday we'd go down to the Cleveland market, and more times than not, you know, we'd be walking through the stalls and the crowds, and my mom would say, "Go find your father." And I'd go find him somewhere, and he always had his wallet out. He always had his family picture, the picture of his family, and he was just talking to whoever would listen about his family. But you know, so that was you know, I attribute my tendency or whatever you want to call it, quality of engaging people in part to my father. And then the other thing was when I was a little kid, I had always had a paper route from the time I was about, oh, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old, maybe 10, up till, you know, I was about 15 or something like that. Always had a paper route. And you have the paper route, you're always engaging people. You're always going door to door and what have you. And the other thing was I used to sell stuff. I used to, from the age of 5, I was going door to door selling stuff and engaging people. So, you know, yesterday when George walked in, when George walked into the Starbucks, something stood out about him. You know, he was just dressed so nice. And it was obvious that he was well into his 90s. But he was just dressed so dapper, and he sat down at the table next to me while his wife, bless her heart, went up to get their morning whatever, coffee and eggs, I think they got. But he was just sitting there. And you know, when you're doing videos, you got to kind of read people, how receptive they are to, you know, whether or not, you know, they'd be somebody that would be interesting to talk to or willing to talk to you, or be open to doing a video such as I did with George yesterday. But anyway, so the tendency to go out and engage people and talk to people is such a gift. And I realize not everybody has that comfort zone, or that ability to just go up and engage and approach strangers. And it's not anything bad if you don't have that quality, or you don't have that tendency or characteristic. It's just a matter of you know, who you are, and just you know, what God and what the combination of what God and life made you pretty much determines your qualities or your characteristics. But anyway, what the hell else is on my mind? You know, it finally happened yesterday. I was sitting there, and somebody came up to me and said, "Excuse me, aren't you Tom Hall?" I think his name was Fred Hobbs. Fred, what a nice guy you are. Thanks for taking the time to recognize me. You know, I've been sitting here with Skip Smith for the last week, and my God, he just never shuts up about all these people that come up and meet him and drop gift cards on the table for him and take him to dinner and all this type of stuff. And it gets old after a while, you know. You think, what the hell am I doing wrong? You know, Skip Smith hasn't paid for a dinner in probably 2 years or something like that. He hasn't paid for a lunch or a dinner or what have you. But anyway, now I was sitting there yesterday, and Fred came up, and he recognized my Budapest hat. He recognized, and I guess, you know, you see this enough in my videos. You see this enough, and I would imagine that it wouldn't be hard to spot if you're walking into a place such as Fred did yesterday in Starbucks where I was sitting. But anyway, so what else is on my mind? You know, I got to tell you that I am a bit challenged with this whole being homeless thing. You know, I thought that I had it all figured out. When I rented my house, when I rented my house for February and March, I thought I had it all figured out. I was going to go to Portugal for, you know, a couple weeks, and then I was going to come back, and I was going to go kind of, you know, come up and see Skippa Smith for a few days before catching a flight over to California, and then, you know, jumping on a plane over to New Zealand or Australia or Hawaii or something like that. And to be quite honest with you, I'm planed out. You know, after that fiasco coming back from Frankfurt where somebody died on my plane and I was sitting on that plane for 16 hours, it's like, you know, part of me just says I don't want to see the inside of a plane, you know, for quite some time. But another part of it is that my workload. I've got this challenging situation right now that I'm doing with work, and that is, you ever go to a website and a little thing pops up and it says that the website wants to know your location, you know, and you allow or don't allow, basically. Well, I'm doing something for my client. I have a client, CertifiedTransmission.com, and if you go to that website, CertifiedTransmission.com, and you click on locations, it'll take you down to the bottom of the page with a big map of the United States with all the little markers and all that kind of crap. And so I got to recode that whole thing. I got to recode the whole thing, and I got to do what's called radius targeting. So I'm not gonna bore you with the details, but basically, you type in your zip code or your city and state or your whatever, and it'll query the database and find people with the radius of that zip code. So anyway, it's a little bit, to be honest, it's a little bit challenging for me, and I'm spending all my days looking at a computer screen trying to figure it out and make it work. So the thought of getting on a plane and going over to Australia and gallivanting around is not something that's in the cards. But anyway, so what does that leave me? You know, I'm looking at places to go and visit. I was going to go up to the Carolinas, go up to you know, Georgia, Carolinas, what have you. But the weather is crap. The weather. I mean, it's like, who the hell wants to go to a place where the temperature is, you know, the high of the day is, you know, 62 or something like that. I know there's people out there like Terry up in Canada, maybe watching this, and he's thinking, oh God, Tom, what I wouldn't give to have you know, a high of 62. But anyway, so that's just some of the stuff on my mind. And you know, the one last thing is the thought of you know, doing that video yesterday, and you know, the motivating. You know, I guess everybody's got the underlying motivations for doing these videos. For me, as I've often said, doing the videos can take the edge off of loneliness when you're on the road. Doing the videos can take the edge off of loneliness. If only you know, albeit virtually, you feel like you're connected. You feel like you're connected to people, and so that doing the videos can take the edge off of loneliness, so to speak. But different people do videos for different reasons. Skip Smith, he just does the videos for, I don't know why the hell Skip Smith does the videos, to be quite honest with you. I don't know what Skip's underlying motivation is. You'd have to ask Skip. Skip's in a challenging situation right now because Skip Smith's videos are always about Skip Smith's videos are always about the villages, for the most part, with exception of sometimes he'll travel or something like that. But his videos are always about the villages. And at some point in time, you're going to run out of stuff to talk about when you're just limiting your topics to something like the villages. I mean, how much stuff can you talk about when it comes to something like the villages? I told Skip that he should get out of his comfort zone and start maybe going out and doing like human interest. That's what people like. People like, the people like cooking. People like stuff like cooking, and they love human interest. They love human interest stories. They love like yesterday, the video that I did talking to George. You only need to go and look at the thumbs up. Nobody gave that a thumbs down, interestingly enough. Not one thumbs down. You had something like 400 plus views. And at the moment, I think there's 30, 35, 36 thumbs up. Not a single thumbs down. But I was telling Skip that he should do some like human interest, like go out and talk to people in the villages, and what have you. Maybe that would be pushing Skip out of his comfort zone. Maybe Skip would be a little bit uncomfortable. I think that he's done some of those videos though in the past. But anyway, back to the matter is I'm going to be here in the villages for a short while longer. I'm not exactly quite sure how long, but if there's anybody in the villages watching this video and you want to do a video with me or me and Skip Smith, just reach out to me in the comments and let me know. Okay. So anyway, I think breakfast is on. So